Welcome everybody to DcDomingo. I'm Sergio. We're going to talk about all things awesome related to DC Comics. Today is the Super Bowl, so I'm going to try to upload it before it hits. I also have an Xbox podcast. I might have to wait after the Super Bowl. Anyways, the Super Bowl, we don't have any confirmation of a Justice League trailer, but there might be surprises. A new Justice League image was just dropped today to the press. So it's starting the speculation again of a small trailer or a teaser for a trailer. I don't know. But if there is a trailer, I'm pretty sure that I can upload a really quick review of it after the Super Bowl. In the meantime, a lot of cool stuff has been rumored. There's a new Batman game by Rocksteady. Supposedly, in the works. It might be starring Damian Wayne, or it might not, or it might be a Superman one, since they've rumored it for a long time. So we'll cover those rumors when they're actually more solid. I don't like to go into that speculation. I'm also going to try and do more captures of DC Online. It's a free game for, Xbox and PlayStation as well, and PC. So it's actually pretty damn cool. And the other one I'm gonna try and beat Injustice again. I just reinstalled it for the 360 because I was playing it on the PS3. So I'm gonna try and get the the achievements for it. It'll be tough because I don't like fighting games and I'm pretty horrible at it. Anyway, so let's get into the spoilers of the TV shows. First up is Gotham. As I've explained last week, it's one of those shows that has been really, really winning me over. This particular episode was pretty dark. I was surprised that they revealed so much about the Court of Owls. We've seen them be pretty badass, almost like the Templars from the Assassin's Creed universe. We also saw like a precursor of a Joker type character named Jerome, brought back from the dead. And it ended up with a really cool, circus scene where a bunch of Jokers were, gathered up, and Jerome, kind of got Bruce Wayne into the House of Mirrors, kind of like the Dark Knight Returns scene. And I think there was a little bit of homage to Batman vs. Superman because there is a shot-for-shot remake of Batman punching someone. It looks very, very similarly to young Bruce Wayne punching Jerome. Not to mention that the whole removing of the Joker's face pays homage to the New 52 Joker by Tony Daniel. He was the first one to utilize it, and then Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo also did it. So I was blown away. Pretty graphic stuff, pretty dark and brutal. Bruce Wayne has taken his first step to being Batman, and it's pretty damn great. I highly recommend it, and I'm not going to spoil what happened between the Riddler and Penguin. That was kind of heartbreaking. The next one is Supergirl, which had like a milestone. This past Monday, we had a great ensemble behind the scenes. We already know that Ali Atler is a producer. She worked on Firefly, which is a fan favorite. But this episode called We Can Be Heroes featured Rebecca Johnson as a director. Now, I say it is surprising because not a lot of people in the media picked it up. Rebecca Johnson on IMDb actually has a small film career with Honey Trap, which is like a UK small movie, and she's directing, this episode of Supergirl. She's also directed for The Magicians, which is pretty cool. We also have, what else do we have? Well, one of the things that was very surprising is that we have a female director and not a lot of media coverage. The other cool thing is that we have two female writers, Caitlin Parrish and Katie Rose Rogers, sorry, which is pretty damn cool in itself. Again, there's been like a lot of, promoting, female protagonists, which is, what Supergirl is. But also, it should be noted when talent behind the screen is represented equally. This particular episode featured a female protagonist and a female antagonist. It was Livewire, which is one of the fan favorites from Superman, the animated series, and also the Justice League Unlimited, where, she played a really cool role. And not to mention that in this episode, this bad girl, wasn't really the bad person. She was actually kidnapped by some evil dude who wanted to use her electric powers to generate carbon copies in order to sell them on the black market to dictators and bad guys and stuff like that. So it was pretty damn awesome, to see that even Livewire as a bad girl was able to have some redemption. It was overall really, really damn awesome. The special effects are pretty damn cool. Ooh, before I forget, we had some awesome Martian Manhunter and Megan subplot dealing with most of the repressed memories by Megan. It is really cool. So that was also a really good episode. All right, moving on to Flash. This Flash episode was pretty great. We had not a bounty hunter, but they call it a collector from another reality where Harrison Wells is from. Apparently in that reality, multiverse traveling was forbidden, and he broke that rule. So we have someone named Gypsy, who is a comic book character that Cisco interacted in his short-lived short series of the New 52, which I bought. They're pretty cool. You should check them out on either Comixology or DC Comics app. The episode was pretty cool, pretty solid. Some great Cisco moments. Not to mention that we also get Barry Allen and Iris West. They finally tell everybody what's going on and what's going to happen in the future. We also get Kid Flash involved. A lot more dynamic into the group, and hopefully they bring back Gypsy. I can see that she and Cisco had a really cool chemistry, and they share kind of the same powers. I remember Jeff Jones mentioning that Cisco or Vive was going to have a big influence on the, overall DC multiverse. And if you saw some of the comics lately, you would understand that it's all about traveling between universes. The big, rumor is that Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan are doing that, and they managed to kill Pandora, who many people thought she brought about the New 52, but it was actually Dr. Manhattan. I don't know. I'm geeking out. It's a really good episode, pretty solid, great representation all around. Next up, we have Arrow, which has been surprising me this season. Last weekend, I don't know if it was just me or, expectations were too high or whatever, but most of the premieres weren't as exciting as these shows have been on the second week since their return. Arrow, again, very, very surprising. we got to meet Talia al Ghul, who, kind of sets Arrow up for his reintroduction to, Starling City back in season 1. This is a flashback, and it was amazing because, she not only does she save him, but from his captors, but it kind of inspires him to become quote unquote something else, which is a really awesome phrase from the first season, first episode. It has become kind of iconic for Arrow, and I was pretty blown away because it was such a seminal point in the series that it felt like epic and awesome. The other subplot going on in Arrow was we were getting a new Black Canary, and we had an introduction to her origin, which involved the particle accelerator from The Flash. There was like a flashback to where she and her she was a police officer, and her partner was used as leverage to interrogate her. Then the particle accident happens, her partner gets killed, and as she's screaming, these dark matter multiverse particles kind of pierce through everybody, and because she's screaming, she develops the superpower of the canary cry. Really, really epic, really, really awesome. By far one of the best episodes that I've seen in Arrow, and the chemistry between these two is pretty badass. I mean, I like Stephen Amell a lot as an actor. He's pretty kick-ass. He's kind of suave. I was always kind of like, man, he's kind of like a ladies' man. But with this canary, she's gonna have to make the choice because she is way like cooler than Arrow already. So he's gonna have to step it up in order if he wants to date this Dana. It's not gonna be as easy. So I'm kind of happy. Next up, we have Legends of Tomorrow, again with a much better episode than last weekend. We actually have a bad guy centric episode, which is amazing. They title it Legion of Doom. I was expecting more bad guys in it so far, but maybe for budget reasons or because they can't use, Lex Luthor or Black Manta or even Grodd, or even Savage. Most of the bad guys have been disposed of or taken care of, so even Solomon Grundy would probably not fit in there. So the Legion of Doom is pretty bare bones. We have Malcolm Merlin, Damien Dark, and we have Eobard Thawne, which is the Reverse Flash from the future. The men in yellow suit, as it were. So all three are working, to get the Spear of Destiny, which is in this DC universe has magical powers, which is pretty cool. The magical power is to change reality itself. They kind of delve into why would a speedster, like Reverse Flash, need to change reality when he can just travel back in time and do that. Well, the answer was pretty tremendous. If you remember season 2 of Flash, it ended with the creation of a horrible, horrible monster in the form of the Black Rider. So it turns out the Black Rider himself is chasing the Reverse Flash, which it's pretty awesome just to see a bad guy being chased by an even more badder bad guy. It's pretty fun because you feel bad for him. Another cool episode. I was pretty blown away. Keep it up, DC TV. We hit the 15-minute mark. I'm going to talk about a few more things. What I have so far, let's go into Ben Affleck and Batman. Okay, so I actually got into not many heated conversations, but just mostly like explaining to people what the Ben Affleck statement was regarding him stepping down as a director of Batman. Now, if you follow him on Twitter or on if you have his Facebook friends groups in there, you would know that the latest film, Live by Night, kind of took a toll on him. He was the writer, the producer, the actor, and it was a big undertaking for him. He did it with Argo, which got him an Oscar for directing. But this was a very big movie, huge budget, and required a lot out of him. And it didn't do so well neither at the box office or at the reviews. I believe it's because not only it came out during a very, very crowded Oscar season, but there's a lot more going on in the world right now to go to the movies and check out a Ben Affleck movie when we have huge contenders, from all walks of life. So for instance, we have a really, really poor scenario where this amazing Iranian filmmaker was blocked from coming to the Oscars because of the ban, and he was actually nominated. If you ever seen the movie from Iran, A Separation was also nominated for an award. And to have something, a film this good not being able to have its, creator come to the States, it kind of overtakes the whole thing. We've also been seeing a lot of suppression of women. There was that amazing World March. So a lot of great, female-centric movies are being nominated. Hidden Figures was amazing. It's been nominated. Also, Viola Davis from the Suicide Squad. She and Denzel have another movie called Fences, which is based on a Broadway play that Denzel actually worked on. And that it's also been gaining a lot of attention. Moonlight, dealing with the issue of race, is also generating a lot of buzz. Even though La La Land, it's a musical, it's kind of bland. It won a lot of nominations. We have a giant Oscar season. So Live by Night, kind of came and went by pretty quickly. And when you're, an aging actor, kind of like Ben Affleck, you kind of want to be able to take care of your time a little bit better. So for him to undertake, the Batman after this and not get any either recognition or box office, I think it was, it's not so much that he's sick of publicity, but that's how Hollywood is. I mean, you're only as good as your last movie, and same thing happened to, Guillermo del Toro. He did Crimson Peak, and he stepped away from Pacific Rim 2. Sometimes these things do take a toll on you. But if you go to the comic book websites and, the haters, they would say that, Ben Affleck is losing interest in the Batman project, which is kind of bullshit since, he's also the writer and the producer. And he's going to dedicate to acting, which for Batman doesn't just mean, stand there, say the lines. It means work out and focus on acting, because it's going to be heavily scrutinized no matter what you do. The other important factor is that he brought in Chris Terrio, who won an Oscar for Argo for writing the screenplay. So if Ben Affleck didn't give a damn about the Batman, he wouldn't have brought in a really, really good, screenwriter to work on it. Chris Terrio also worked on Batman vs Superman, and that movie is still quotable. Say what you will, but that movie's still quotable and still remarkably engaging. We're still talking about it even today. So yeah. A lot of people don't know much about what goes on in Hollywood, how things work out, and it's kind of disappointing that not a lot of people brought in Live by Night and the response to that as a precursor to why Ben Affleck would step down as a director. Most likely because people just don't know jack shit, and they don't really know cinema, and they want to talk about movies when they don't know cinema. Oddly enough, there is a Batman movie out called The Lego Batman, so I'm gonna get into it right now. So, the Lego Batman movie has, generated good positive buzz, and the reason why I'm, just talking about it for a little bit is because, it's a lot of the movie reviewer people, don't read comics. Sure, the Lego Batman wasn't based on a comic book, but the character of Batman is from a comic book. I'm choosing this screen cap of this reviewer because apparently he's a Batman fan since being a kid, but he doesn't mention anything about the themes that the Lego Batman movie deals with. So both themes that he mentioned on his review was Batman forming or being hesitant to form a Bat family, which is straight out from the comics of 80s and 90s, but also most recently Death of the Family by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. And also, the other plot element of the Lego movie is Joker, basically telling Batman, hey, recognize me as your main antagonist, blah, blah, blah. It's also from, Death of the Family. And I bet you that if you go to either Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, you're going to find the amount of reviewers who actually mention these plot points from the Lego Batman movie from the comics. You're not going to find many. And that's a shame because, here you have a movie that everybody seems to like because it's funny and lighthearted, whereas Batman vs. Superman was like, oh, it's too dark. Even though both films take elements from the comic books and the Lego movie seem to be embraced because it's lighthearted and fun, while the other one, it's straight up from the comics, kind of dark. So yeah, that was it seemed like a little bit of bias even for people who claim to be fans, but whatever. It is what it is. I will see the Lego movie at some point, hopefully payday, hopefully in a matinee, hopefully sober. All right, so we're going to get into the last item of the day, which is the Justice League image that you see before you. It was released today, and from what you can tell, it features Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg. Now, the very, very interesting thing that I've noticed is that it was kind of weird timing because it's right before the Super Bowl. And, that has sparked my interest in the Super Bowl. Because, image before the Super Bowl. Maybe there is a trailer. One of the things that you would notice, or that many people are noticing, is that Cyborg looks skinny, they say. Well, if you look at his armor, or his lack of armor, it's mostly an endoskeleton. So it makes sense. There's like a Terminator metal skeleton, and then there's a metal on top, which makes perfect sense. I would compare him to, Iron Man and the recent RoboCop remake. If you look at those films, whenever the actor wears a suit on top of his frame, it looks really bulky, and it looks a little bit, quote unquote, fat. But whenever the special effects people make the entire costume of RoboCop or Iron Man as CGI, they look very slim and kind of anatomically accurate. I say anatomically accurate because they look like armor that has no human flesh below. So yeah, check out those movies. You'll understand what I mean. One of the reasons why I'm actually happy that they're going with this look is because it would look pretty unnerving to have Cyborg look like this. Like if you saw his brief cameo in Batman vs. Superman, you know that he lost pretty much all of his body. And having just metal, you would look like this in real life. I can see why it's taken a while to make this movie, and that's because the special effects houses have to remove, the actor and insert the plates behind it, and then, make sure that it fits the actor's joints, and then add the lights, and it's a pretty big undertaking. So enough about Cyborg. The other cool thing that we get to see is Jason Momoa in Aquaman armor, which is very golden and very green. He also has his trident and his, fierce look. Same thing with Wonder Woman. It's the same armor that she wears from Batman vs. Superman, the tiara, and all three look very, very fierce. Some people have speculated that this is like an alien ship. If you can see in the background, you can see buildings. So this ship is on Earth, and on the horizon there's rooftops of buildings. So we can assume this building is hovering. I don't know if this looks like the scout ship from Batman or Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. I'd say it doesn't, because the scout ship had a like a water drop motif on the floor, and this one doesn't. The floor of this spaceship looks very, very flat, aged and blackened, almost like it's seen some more and stuff. Funny thing, or not so funny, I think Wonder Woman's sword looks bloody in this shot. So yeah, this was just dropped today. Pretty big. Kind of a nice way to get us hyped for the Super Bowl. Anyways, that is all the time that we have for DcDomingo. I look forward to having a guest. We're still working on it. And, alright. Say yes to DC, or as I say in Spanish, DC a DcDomingo. Gracias.